Welcome back, part two, Charlie Chin. Charlie Chin is like a institution in the Asian American movement. Yeah, or maybe he's institutionalized. I don't know, but in any case, I think I first saw Charlie in the late '60s in L.A., and he was traveling and singing with a group called A Grain of Sand. It was with Joanne, who's now known as Nobuko Miyamoto, and Chris Ujima. And these are songs that we had never heard before, because these are songs that were written about us, for us, all that. And you're going to hear some of that tonight. But just by way of introduction, actually I heard Charlie Chin way before I met him, and that was via a rock record, because I was a huge Buffalo Springfield fan. And that's that song by Stephen Stills, Bluebird. And at the end of it, there's this tremendous banjo break, and it's like, wow, where does that come from? And then you get album covers, you go to the back, and it's like, Charlie Chin. And he's like, well, who is this guy, Charlie Chin? So I had heard of him way before I met him. And then, well, there's much more to that rock and roll story. Cat Mother and the All Night Newsboys, top 40 hit. I'm gonna have all this in the East Wind article, because there's like links on YouTube to Charlie, who was an Asian American lead singer in a rock band, which is kind of unheard of, skinny guy just singing his ass off. The lead, that was unheard of. But he's probably more known to folks today as a storyteller with the whole History Alive series. As a children's author, he's authored 2 children's books, and he's currently working on a 3rd book about the Chinatown Wars between 1884 and 1924. And tonight you're in for a treat, because I've seen Charlie perform many times, and tonight I asked him to do something different, and that is to really sort of trace his musical journey from early childhood to the present. And this is something he doesn't do often, and I think you'll really be educated. It's just going to be great. So here he is, Charlie Chin.
Well, if you want to know something about my life, the first thing you have to know and understand is my actual English name is William. So when I was a young man, they used to call me Billy Boy. I got the nickname Charlie, you can guess why. When I was a kid, I was the only Chinese kid on the block. But Eddie and I wanted me to talk more about how I grew up. So first of all, my mother's side of the family are West Indian Chinese. People tend to forget there was an Exclusion Act in this country for a long time. Overseas Chinese went everywhere in the world. We arrived with the British. They brought us to Trinidad and Tobago in 1805. And very quickly, we were first brought in to cut sugarcane and gather cocoa seeds. But very quickly, the Chinese became shopkeepers, and by the 1900s, they had done relatively well. Then many of them immigrated to places like Canada and the United States. So that's where I grew up in New York, and grew up at house parties where we were mostly West Indian Chinese. Now, it's a little different when you're West Indian Chinese than it is being American Chinese. And I think when I was a boy, the man who sort of exemplified that was my Uncle Chino. Uncle Chino he was part French, part Venezuelan, part Chinese. If you could take the negative aspects of each one of those cultures and distill it into one person, you would have my Uncle Chino. Uncle Chino, when I was 10 years old, we all used to go to the kitchen to check out Uncle Chino. Wow. Uncle Chino was one of those guys who, he would let you, when nobody else was looking, he'd let you take a sip out of his beer when you were 10 years old. And he used to carry a picture of a naked woman in his wallet, which he would show you when nobody was looking. Uncle Chino was a man. Now, at that time, This was an admirable thing. It's not like today when somebody says, oh, he's a man. That immediately makes him suspect, you know. Oh, he's just a man. That's what happens to me sometimes. He's just a man. He's not even gay. He's not bi. He's not trans. He's not gender neutral. He's just a man. And look, he doesn't even have a tattoo. I'm sorry. What can I say? Can I make it up to you? I'll buy you a cup of coffee and a sandwich. No, Uncle Chino was a man. He could sing. He could dance. He could play a musical instrument. And he loved women. He was always flirting with women. We used to ask him, Uncle Chino, why you flirt with so many women? Oh, don't you know, boy, huh? Young girls dream of marriage. Married women dream of falling in love. Come on, you have to flirt with all of them. Uncle Chino was the kind of guy who always showed up at family parties with another woman. Who's that with Uncle Chino? Oh, that's Uncle Chino's friend. It was usually a white woman. I'm not being racist. I mean, it was usually a white woman. I'm not racist. I've gone out with a couple of blondes in my life. Of course, they were Korean, but I'm not racist. But Uncle Chino used to show up with a strange woman every time, and they always looked a little tired. And they worked in places called Malone's and Kelly's. But he was great. Oh, what a great man he was. And he'd give you all kinds of advice about every little thing. So, between him and Auntie Kong could read your future. She'd look at your hand and she'd read your future. She would look at my cousin Mary and she would say, oh, this girl's going to grow up and she's going to marry a wealthy man. And she'd look at my cousin Egbert's hand and say, this boy will be a scholar. She'd look at my hand and say, this boy will travel all the days of his life and always have trouble with women. Huh? But that's where I first heard about it. Sitting on the floor in the kitchen with a plate of pigeon peas and rice and chicken, listening to the old women talk about it. And they talked about it a lot. The obia, the juju, the voodoo. If a man vex you, he make you angry, write his name on a piece of paper, put it in your shoe and walk on it for a week, he will suffer. Before you go to sleep at night, sprinkle salt on the doorstep. This way the sukhuya, the night ghost, can't come in and cause the bad luck. And Teresa, she have an ache in she waist. Whether she's standing, she's sitting, lying down, she aches, she waist. They took her to the doctor, but the doctor say, I can't find anything wrong. But she aches, she waist. So they called the obia man, and he make a cross, a cow bone. Put her in a coffin underneath a full moon. He waved the cross of cow bone and say some kind of word. When I tell you, man, the pain go away. Obia. The juju, the voodoo. Edmund wake up one morning. He have a bump over here. This side his navel. He look, every day the bump moving. He know when the bump come all the way around the other side, he going to die. So they have to call the obia man who make a switch. He gather herb, he gather all kind of plant thing, and he make a switch and he beat the bump. And the bump start going back the other way. Then he beat the bump till it disappear. Obia! The juju. The voodoo. Albert working in a cane field. And he bitten by a fer de lance. It's a poisonous snake. So he know he a dead man. They carry him away to a shade tree, saying, oh, gosh, man, Albert gone now. But who come down the road but an obia man? Wearing sackcloth and ashes. And he say, what's the problem here? Albert bitten by a poisonous snake. He going to die. Oh, no. Where the cane break? Over here the cane break. So he go to cane break. And he make a whistle so. Here come the snake. With a leaf in his mouth. The obia man call out, give me goat milk. Break the leaf in the goat milk. Give to Albert to sup. And when I tell you, man, he returned to work in 1 hour and was well the next day. This is obia, the juju, the voodoo. folk myth, foolishness, superstition is what I was told by my American teachers. So I had to learn about observation, experimentation, mass hysteria, the power of suggestion, hypnosis. But every now and then, when a man vex me, I write his name on a piece of paper and I put it in my shoe for a week.